let's move to the NBA. It was a blockbuster trade that took place in the middle of the night on the East Coast as the L.A. Clippers have traded for James Harden. The Clippers received James Harden and P.J. Tucker in the deal. The 76ers, they received Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, Nicholas Batum, K.J. Martin, also a 2028 first-round pick, and another future first-round pick that's going to be determined moving forward, and a 2029 pick swap and 2 second-round picks. So, my initial reaction when I woke up to the news of the LA Clippers trading for James Harden was the LA Clippers were not going to be contenders because they traded for James Harden. The LA Clippers were going to be contenders in the Western Conference if Kawhi Leonard stayed healthy. So for me, the Clippers trading for James Harden is not going to make them be contenders in the Western Conference. The reason why they're going to be contenders in the Western Conference is because of Kawhi Leonard being healthy in April, May, and June. That's the only way the Clippers are going to be contenders in the West. James Harden doesn't move the needle and make the Clippers this championship contender. The reason why the Clippers have been viewed as championship contenders over the last few years is because of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. But Kawhi Leonard and Paul George have struggled to stay healthy, specifically Kawhi Leonard. And I love Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard, when he's healthy, is a top 5 player in the NBA. When I look at players and their legacy being solidified, I think about LeBron James. I think about Kevin Durant. I think about Steph Curry. And I also include Giannis in that conversation as well. But I always remember to include Kawhi Leonard because Kawhi Leonard, he's a 2-time NBA Finals MVP, 2-time NBA champion, and he's one of the best two-way players that we have, not only currently in the NBA, but all time. Kawhi Leonard is a great player offensively and defensively. But the biggest question that we have about the Clippers is, will Kawhi Leonard be healthy when it matters the most? Last year, when the playoffs started, in the first round, we had the L.A. Clippers going up against the Phoenix Suns. And I was excited for that matchup because I felt like the Clippers could beat the Suns. If they play at their best and max potential, they can beat the Suns. I love Ty Lue as a head coach. I like Kawhi Leonard, obviously, and they had Russell Westbrook as well on the team. And so I thought to myself, if Kawhi is healthy, they can beat the Suns in this series. And remember, the Clippers, they beat the Suns game 1, and in game 2, the Clippers, they lost to the Suns. That was a game that the Suns had to have. But then game 3 comes, and before the game, we hear about Kawhi Leonard being injured. And I'm like, what happened? What happened? And that's what confused me. That's what confused me. But look, James Harden on the Clippers, is he going to help them from a playmaking standpoint? Absolutely. Absolutely. You look at James Harden and how he's been able to move and distribute the basketball. The way he's distributed the basketball is great. Last year, he had 11 assists for the Philadelphia 76ers. And so we are at that point in James Harden's career where James Harden is not an elite scorer anymore. He's not an elite scorer, but he's an elite playmaker. He's an elite playmaker. But you look at James Harden, his points per game in the last 6 years. In the 2017 season in Houston, he was ranked first in the NBA. This is points per game ranks. He was ranked first in the NBA in the 2017 season. In 2018, he was ranked first in the NBA. In the 2019 season, he was ranked first in the NBA. Then he departs Houston and goes to Brooklyn. In the 2020 season, he was ranked 21st in the NBA in points per game ranks. In 2021, he was ranked 27th. And last year, he was ranked 43rd in the NBA in points per game ranks. Folks, James Harden is no longer the same James Harden that played for the Houston Rockets. Can he still score? Yes, he can still score the basketball. But he can't take over games like he once could when he played for the Houston Rockets. Those days are over with. But he can distribute the basketball and be a tremendous playmaker in this Clippers offense. That's what I think the Clippers gained the most trading for James Harden. He's a great playmaker, and he can help make the necessary passes to Paul George and Kawhi Leonard in key moments in basketball games. But we know in the playoffs, James Harden always underperforms and folds in the postseason. He's done it time and time again. The Clippers are not getting the best version of James Harden. Even when James Harden was at his best in Houston, James Harden always underperformed in the playoffs. Year after year after year after year, he would come up small in the playoffs. I remember one year, I think it was game 6 in the playoffs. The Spurs were going up against the Houston Rockets. It was game 6 in Houston, in Harden's house. And the Spurs didn't have Kawhi Leonard in that game. And they blew out the Houston Rockets by 40. And James Harden shot like 2 of 12 from the floor. I don't even think he had 10 points. He had an awful performance. And then you see James Harden a few hours later in the club. And it made you wonder, does he care about winning? Does he care? But it's going to be exciting to see Harden, Westbrook, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard on the same team. And the one thing I know the media is not talking about, because it's the Clippers, not the Lakers. Interesting note, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard, all 4 are from L.A. All 4 are from California. Interesting note. If it was the Lakers, I feel like the media would talk about that a little bit more. But I think that's interesting, because I look at these 4 players on the Clippers, in Westbrook, Harden, George, and Leonard. Kawhi Leonard and Russell Westbrook are for sure Hall of Fame players. Paul George is iffy. James Harden, to me, is kind of iffy. James Harden could make the Hall of Fame. He probably, because when I think about shooting guards, James Harden's probably a top 5 shooting guard of all time. Obviously, it's Jordan, Kobe, Dwayne Wade, AI. Because I'm taking AI over James Harden. Right now, Allen Iverson is a better player than James Harden has ever been. I'm taking AI over James Harden. So James Harden is probably like the 5th best shooting guard of all time, maybe. He did win an NBA MVP. He has went to multiple conference finals, but I just don't know. I don't know if this move makes the Clippers championship contenders. I'm still taking the Denver Nuggets over the Clippers. I'm still taking the Phoenix Suns over the Clippers. And I feel like the Clippers are in that second tier, and they're at the bottom. Like the Clippers are on the same level as, like, maybe, because the Lakers and the Clippers, when they play against each other, for whatever reason, the Clippers always beat the Lakers for some reason. The Lakers can't beat the Clippers to save themselves at all. That's one thing I can give the Clippers. In the Kawhi Leonard, Paul George era, they have always beaten LeBron James and Anthony Davis for some reason. But I probably would put the Clippers in that second tier, maybe even top of the third tier of teams in the Western Conference, but they're not better than the Denver Nuggets. They're not better than the Phoenix Suns. And I don't think they're better than the Golden State Warriors for that matter. And I don't even know what direction they're going in currently. I just don't know. I think they're trying to talk themselves into believing that they are still a team that can win a championship, like their championship window is open. But if Kawhi Leonard's not healthy, then they're not contenders. And now Kawhi Leonard can somehow miraculously be healthy in April, then maybe the Clippers can be championship contenders. Because no matter how great Russell Westbrook plays, no matter how great James Harden plays, and not even how great Paul George plays, the Clippers are not championship contenders if Kawhi Leonard is not healthy. And also, I'm wondering how this is going to affect Russell Westbrook. Because in the playoffs last year, Russell Westbrook played well for the Clippers. No Paul George, no Kawhi Leonard. So he played well considering he was a one-man crew. But I don't know if it's going to affect Russell Westbrook now that James Harden is in L.A. because remember when they played together in Houston, both Russell Westbrook and James Harden wanted out of Houston. They wanted out of Houston because they could not play together. So I don't know how that dynamic fits with Russell Westbrook and James Harden. I don't know how that's going to fit. I got my questions about it. Now, let's look at Harden's numbers last year. He averaged 21 points per game, 10 assists per game, shot 43% from the floor, 38% from three-point range. But on this Clippers team, he'll be the third option because Kawhi Leonard is the number one option and Paul George is the number two. So maybe James Harden can play well in a role in which he's not required to be the one or second option on a team. And I think that's where James Harden currently is right now in his career. And that's the reason why I don't feel like the Sixers lost much. I'm going to talk about them here shortly. But last year, I never took the Sixers serious as NBA championship contenders because James Harden was viewed on their team as their second option. James Harden is not a second option on a championship team. If James Harden is your second option, you are not a championship contender. It's just that simple. Even when he was in Brooklyn, that was Kevin Durant as the number one option, and then Kyrie Irving, and then James Harden. And so maybe he can play better now in L.A. with the Clippers, considering he's going to be the third option. Now, when it comes to the Philadelphia 76ers, this was addition by subtraction for the 76ers. Moving off of James Harden, it makes the Sixers the same basketball team now compared to what they were when they had James Harden. Like, whatever the Sixers are going to be by the end of the season and whatever their fate is going to be, it was going to be that same fate even with James Harden. Losing James Harden does not take away from the Sixers' chances at being able to compete in the Eastern Conference. They're going to still compete in the Eastern Conference because you still got Tyrese Maxey, you still got Joel Embiid, fresh off a season where he won NBA MVP. And in this trade, they got back some decent pieces like Marcus Morris, like Robert Covington, perimeter defenders who can help the Sixers defensively because they did give up P.J. Tucker in this deal. Seems like P.J. Tucker follows James Harden everywhere he goes. They did give up P.J. Tucker, a nice perimeter defender, but they got back Marcus Morris. They got back Robert Covington. And so defensively, they got better defensively trading away James Harden. Now, offensively, you still got Joel Embiid, you still got Tyrese Maxey, and you also got Tobias Harris as well. That's your trio, and that's your stars per se. Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid. But the Sixers, even with James Harden, they were not on the level of the Milwaukee Bucks or the Boston Celtics. So, for me, even though the Sixers traded James Harden away, They're not championship contenders, and they weren't contenders with him. So I said last year that, and this is my view, I don't think the Sixers viewed him this way. That's why I keep using the word viewed, because the Sixers viewed James Harden as their second best player last year. And I told my cousin going into the playoffs, I said, the second best player on the Sixers is not James Harden. It's Tyrese Maxey. And so Tyrese Maxey now, he's going to get an opportunity to really, really play and elevate his game in this Sixers offense. I like their head coach in Nick Nurse. I really, really do. And I think he's going to put Maxey in a position to elevate his game, and they're going to run the offense through Maxey more. He's a nice ball handler, and now that James Harden's out of Philly, the ball is going to be in Tyrese Maxey's hands. Last year, Tyrese Maxey, he had a nice season last year. He averaged 20 points per game, 4 assists per game. So Tyrese Maxey is an up-and-coming future potential star in this league, and now he's going to get more opportunities. But I don't know what the Sixers do with Joel Embiid moving forward. Joel Embiid is starting to get impatient with the Sixers organization, and they got to figure something out soon. They got to definitely figure something out soon, because Joel Embiid wants to compete for an NBA championship. Now, last year, you look at Joel Embiid and his numbers. In the regular season last year, on his way to winning NBA MVP, Joel Embiid averaged 33 points per game last year in the regular season. In the playoffs, he only averaged 24 points per game. He got to play better in the postseason. And this is the reason why Nikola Jokic has separated himself from Joel Embiid. Because in the playoffs, Nikola Jokic elevates his game, and he plays better in the playoffs as the playoffs go along. And Joel Embiid, he shrinks. He shrinks. Last year, the Sixers had a 3-2 lead over the Boston Celtics. Game 6 in Embiid's house. In his house. Jason Tatum couldn't throw the basketball in the ocean. He was shooting awful in that Game 6 matchup against the Sixers in Philly. And the Sixers had a chance and an opportunity to close out the Boston Celtics, and they could not get it done because Joel Embiid underperformed for the Sixers when it mattered the most. And so, yes, Joel Embiid deserves better and deserves a better organization, but he also has to do his part in the postseason when the moment presents itself. And he has not done that over the last few years in the playoffs. And that's the reason why Nikola Jokic is now by far the best center in the NBA. But for me, the Clippers trading for James Harden does not make them championship contenders. The reason why the Clippers could be championship contenders is if Kawhi Leonard actually suits up and if he plays in the playoffs. If he's available and he's playing, Clippers can beat anybody. If he's not, Clippers may struggle to even make the play-in. And again, for me, when it comes to the Sixers are not a worse basketball team now that James Harden is in L.A. They're about the same team they were going to be with him. Like, the results were going to be the same. Whatever they were going to be with James Harden at the end of the season, that's going to be the same outcome at the end of the season without James Harden.